It was one of those chilly autumn evenings, when the wind seems to whisper secrets you not meant to hear. That was the night I moved into my new apartment. The place was huge, and the rent was almost suspiciously low. The landlord, a grim-faced man with tired eyes, mentioned that the last tenant had just left. Vanished, really. Left everything behind. Furniture, decorations, the works. I didn't think much of it. Honestly, I was just thrilled to finally have a space to call my own. As I started exploring my new home, my eyes landed on a large painting in the living room. It was an old portrait, the kind you'd see in a museum. A woman dressed all in black, with a pale face half swallowed by shadows. But it was her eyes. They were lifeless, yet weirdly focused. It felt like no matter where I stood in the room, her gaze was locked right onto me. At first, I just laughed it off. Just a trick of the light, I told myself. An optical illusion. But as the sun went down and the apartment sank into a heavy silence, that feeling wouldn't go away. The woman's stare felt like a physical weight on my skin. Every time I walked past the painting, I could have sworn her eyes shifted, just a fraction, tracking my every move. It was getting under my skin. I finally had enough. I wrestled the heavy frame off the wall, carried it into a corner, and turned it to face the wall. Problem solved, right? The next morning, I walked into the living room, coffee in hand, and my heart just stopped. It was back, hanging in its original spot, as if it had never been moved. I stood there, completely baffled. Did I move it back myself? Maybe I was sleepwalking. It seemed plausible, but a small, cold part of me knew that wasn't it. Someone, or something, else had moved it. Later that day, my friend Rohan came over to help me unpack the last of my boxes. I tried to make a joke out of it, pointing at the creepy painting. "Check this out," I said. "It feels like she's watching me." Rohan didn't laugh. He just stared at it for a long, uncomfortable moment. Then he said, his voice barely a whisper, "Bro, I don't think that's paint." I let out a nervous laugh. "What are you talking about?" He stepped closer, his eyes narrowed. "Look at the texture. The color, it looks like dried blood." My stomach lurched. "That's ridiculous," I said, but my voice wavered. I moved closer, and my blood ran cold. He was right. The deep reds on the woman's lips and the dark fabric of her dress weren't right. They were brownish, flaky, and had an organic look to them that made me want to be sick. Rohan begged me to get rid of it, to just throw it out. But a morbid curiosity had taken root in my mind. I had to know what was going on. That night, sleep was impossible. The silence of the apartment felt deafening. Then, around 2 a.m., I heard it, a faint sound, like someone whispering in the living room. It was a woman's voice, low and filled with a deep, echoing sorrow. I sat bolt upright in bed, my heart hammering against my ribs, straining to listen. The whispers grew louder, swirling through the apartment like a cold fog. My feet moved on their own, carrying me out of the bedroom and down the hall. As I crept toward the living room, the lights began to flicker erratically. My gaze was pulled, almost magnetically, to the painting. The woman's face had changed. Her lips, which had been set in a thin, straight line, were now curved into a faint, unnerving smile. I stumbled backward, gasping. I fumbled for my phone, my fingers shaking so badly I could barely unlock it. I had to get proof. I pointed the camera at the painting and the flash went off, a brilliant, blinding white. The instant it did, the painting shook violently on the wall, as if struck by an invisible hand. It crashed to the floor with a deafening thud, the canvas tearing at the corner. For a moment, I just stared, paralyzed. Then, curiosity overpowering fear. I knelt down to inspect the damage. But it wasn't the torn canvas that held my attention. It was what was behind it. Hidden in the wall where the painting had hung was a small, sealed compartment, the wallpaper around it stained and peeling. With trembling hands, I pried it open. Inside was a bundle of old, faded photographs. They were all of the same woman from the portrait, but younger, vibrant, her face full of life and happiness. I flipped through them, a strange sadness settling over me. Then I got to the last one. My heart didn't just stop. It felt like it had been ripped from my chest. It was a photo of her standing with a man, and behind them, hanging on the very same wall, in this very same apartment, was the painting. Suddenly, the air in the room became arctic cold. The lights flickered wildly, and a soft, chilling voice whispered directly behind me. "You shouldn't have looked." I spun around, my cry getting caught in my throat. There was no one there, but the painting. The torn painting was now standing upright, leaning against the wall as if someone had just placed it there. The woman's eyes seemed to glow. Her smile was wider now, more menacing. And from the corner of one eye, a single bright red tear was streaking down her pale cheek. That was it. Panic took over. I scrambled to the kitchen, my mind screaming one word: burn. I grabbed a box of matches, dragged the cursed thing out onto the balcony, and with a shaking hand, I lit a match. I held the tiny flame to the corner of the canvas. It caught instantly, the fire spreading with an unnatural speed. But this was no normal fire. The flames turned a sickly, dark black, bent from the burning canvas. A terrible, piercing scream ripped through the night air, a sound of pure agony and rage. I fell backward, scrambling away in pure horror. The black smoke billowed upwards, twisting and curling into the faint, terrifying outline of the woman's face. Her eyes were burning holes into me, filled with an ancient fury and grief. Her smoky lips parted, and a voice like grating stone hissed through the darkness. "You took my place." And then she was gone, dissolving into the night. The next thing I knew, I was waking up to the worried faces of my neighbors. I was on the balcony, the first rays of dawn hitting my face. The painting was gone, reduced to a pile of fine ash. My memory was a blur of fragmented nightmares. The scream, that face, the voice. I tried to leave, to get my deposit back and just run. But the landlord was cold. "You destroyed that painting," he said, his voice flat. It was very old, very special. I didn't argue. I just packed my things and got out of there as fast as I could. As I carried my last box toward the front door, something made me pause. A framed photo was hanging near the entrance, one I had never seen before. I stepped closer. It was a portrait of me, standing on the balcony of the apartment, and there, in the background, faint but unmistakable, was the woman from the painting, smiling. Ever since that day, I can't be in a room with old paintings or portraits. They make my skin crawl. But sometimes, late at night, when I catch my reflection in a dark window or a mirror, I swear I see her, just for a second, a flicker in the glass, standing right behind me, watching, waiting. Thanks for sticking with me through that chilling story. If you love tales that will keep you up at night, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Stay safe out there.